What's up, guys? I'm homesick today, but I still wanted to do the Advent of Code, and luckily it looks like an easy one. I was worried after yesterday, but maybe that was an outlier. So we've got a communication device, and it sends us a signal looking like this, seemingly random characters. And for us, they might as well be random because we can't read the message yet, but we can read one thing, which is where does the message start? It reminds me of on the intercom at school, there's like a beep, and then they start talking because that tells us, hey, there's a message about to start. If they just came on and started, we would miss the first few words and be confused. And then most messaging systems have something at the end as well, like over on a walkie-talkie, you know? So this is going to be 4 unique characters. That's the beginning of the signal. For example, these first 4 characters right here, it's got a J and then another J, so that's not what we're looking for. But if you find 4 in a row that are all different, that's the deal. Let's copy this as a little test case, and then we can write some code to do it. Let's say message equals this, or maybe that's not the right word because we're trying to find the start of a message, but we'll figure it out. And then we're going to loop through these because we're going to look down the line, chunks of 4 at a time. And I'm going to say in Python, sometimes you want a number to loop through, like I in range, and sometimes you want the element, like the word in a sentence or letter in a word, but sometimes you want both. And right now I'm going to get both. I'm going to use the enumerate function, which is really nice, and it tells you where you are and what you're looking at. Even if I don't end up using both, that's fine. Now I'm going to say if I is less than 4, no, there's nothing to do. When we're looking at a stretch of characters, we could start at the beginning and look forward, or we could start at the end and look back. And for this one, our answer is at the end. Like, what they want to know is what's after this marker. So I want to be able to just say return I, and that means I'm going to have I look backwards at the last 4 characters. So if we're in the first couple, there's nothing to check yet. We haven't got enough to work with. I'm just going to say continue. And then I'm going to say we've got this sub message that we're looking at, this chunk of 4 that needs to be evaluated. So I'm just going to call it sub message, and it is message from I minus 4 to I. That's like, if we're on P, then we're looking at the previous 4. And if we found it, then our answer would be whatever I is, okay? Now, Python has a wonderful way of testing this, which is to turn it into a set. A set is a kind of collection, similar to list, tuple, whatever, except it is unique items. So if an item's in there once, it can't be in there again. And knowing that is really powerful. It lets you do a lot of things. For this, it'll let us know if they're all unique. So we can say if set of submessage. Actually, we can just say we don't care about the contents. We just care about the length. Like if the length is 4, we're good, right? So in the first 4 characters, if we turn that into a set, we would get MJQ. I don't remember if they're guaranteed a certain order, but we would get M and J and Q, and the length of that is 3 because it's not 4 unique characters. So if the length of something is 4, that means they're all different, and that's what we need. So I'm going to say return I. Obviously, I can't do that. We're not in a function, but I'll put it in a function because what I want to do is kick out of this loop. If I find it halfway through, I don't need to check the rest. So I want to get out of there. So let's make a function, and we'll call it find marker because marker is the word they use for this start of signal thing we're looking for. Now I'm going to indent all these guys. And then I'm going to say, we're going to run it on the message after I make room with my webcam. I'm going to print find marker of message, and this should give us the character right after the unique foreign row. And I don't remember what it was supposed to be, but we'll check the question. Okay, 7, is that right? Yes, it is. They say the 7th character is where we go here. So let's pick one of these other examples before we do the big one. Let's say, okay, it should be 10. And I think if I double click, it'll highlight the string. Yeah. So if I hit run, this is giving us 10. And this seems like it's working just fine. And when we copy the big one into there, it's going to take a little bit more time, but not that much more time, because this algorithm is not really exploding the way some do when you give it a long input. For example, if we had to check one character versus every other, and then go down the line and check every one versus every other, then it would be squaring the magnitude of this. It would be like 10 would be checking 100 things, and 100 would be checking 10,000 things. But when we're just going like linear down the horizontal path, we're okay. I imagine in my mind that when it's a nested for loop, it's like horizontal and vertical, and then you make a grid. This is not really doing that, except when you turn it into a set, there is a little element of comparing everything to every other, but it's only in small chunks of 4. So unless I'm missing something, this is not terrible, even with super long inputs. And speaking of super long inputs, here's what they give us to work with. This looks like multiple lines, but it's really one long line. I think I can still copy it in there, though, and just scroll back over to the left. So let's see. Copy, and then I'm going to hit run, and it's going to look through and do the same thing, even though it's super long. So let's see if we get an answer. That looked like it took a long time, but it wasn't the code. It was just CodeHS's browser stuff. 1034, and guess what? I did this a minute ago. That is in fact the right answer. All we have to do is take chunks of 4, look all the way down the line. Now, this part 2 says, okay, we have another kind of thing. And this is where I should have used a different variable name, because I'm saying message, but message isn't the right word for this stream, because messages are parts of that entire thing. But we'll stick with this for now. It says we're looking for 14 distinct characters instead of just 4. And luckily, that's it. That's the only change. If we just say 14, we've got it. And it doesn't take that much longer. Of course, when you give it a chunk of 14 things and you tell it to turn that into a set, it takes a tiny bit longer to check whether each one is unique within those 14. But it's not crazy. It's not like exploding to hundreds of thousands of actions that have to be performed every time. So it's not too bad. If I hit run, it's going to give us an answer fairly quickly, and it's going to give us the right answer. I'm shocked that this one was that short, because day 5 yesterday, it took me a while. We had to read the input, work with it, read another input, work with it, put them together, think about it. Maybe this is sort of part 1 of a larger thing. Like maybe they're going to come back to this communication thing in other days, and they're going to build on it, and they're just getting us to start now so that we can do the more interesting parts later. But that's it. Or maybe it's the idea of Python sets. You know, if you were doing this in another language, it might not be quite so fast. You might have to write your own function to check that, or you might have to do some extra stuff. By the way, I think we can cut this. I'm not sure about the first couple characters. If you're doing a slice, I think it's fine. It won't give you an error. if you try to make a big slice when you have less than you need. Let's try to run that and see if we're okay. It's going to probably give us the same answer. I wouldn't trust it, though. I would still be a little wary about what happens in the beginning when you're asking it to do 14 and it can't. I would leave that in there. You never know. And then if you notice, we didn't actually need the enumerate. I never used this char variable, so I could have done I in range and then length of message. What is the length of the message, by the way? Let's check it out. I don't know how many thousands of characters this is, but let's find out. Okay, it's 4,000. So if we had a bad algorithm, if it was checking every character versus every other, it would have really slowed down. But this isn't an issue on this one. I'm sure we'll get some later that require optimization, but that was not too bad. Thanks.